Hello viewers, look what I have for you today. This knife is fresh from Quartermaster knives, and this is their newest model, the QSE-13, and this one is the Qwaiken XL. And now if you look at one of my past videos, I did do a little review of the earlier Qwaiken, which is the smaller version right here, so go ahead and watch that video if you have not seen it yet. Again, that one's a great knife, and this is their newest release right here. And I've been kind of waiting for this one because I love the style of the Qwaiken knives. But with the first one here, you'll notice the size difference. The earlier Qwaiken is about a 3-inch blade, and it's a smaller knife. Whereas this one right here kind of just knocks it out of the ballpark in terms of size, because the blade itself is 4.2 inches long, and the overall length of the knife is about 9.5 inches. So this is a big folder. And so there are the two knives here I wanted to really compare it to because it's almost like small, medium, and large. And now this knife here, of course, is not a Quartermaster. This is the Boker Qwaiken. And so this is the original model they came out with some years ago now. This one I have a flipper mod done to it, but they do come out with flipper versions of this now. And they actually have several different versions of this knife available. So the Boker Qwaiken is kind of in the middle in terms of size at least. And now materials are another story, but let me just line up these three knives for you so you can see the size relation. And I compared this Qwaiken because, of course, the Quartermaster Qwaiken is a similar style. I mean, the blade handles are very similar in shape. The knife blade is somewhat similar as well because they're all kind of going for that same aesthetic, you know. So you can see that just the shape of the handle, kind of these small bar-shaped handles. So I'll just move this one aside for right now. Not a huge deal there. So what we have here is the Qwaiken XL, and this is the version they released recently on Instagram. This is the titanium handled version. They had this available in stonewash as well as in limo tint recently. And now what I really would have preferred was if they had released it in carbon fiber like this one, because I love the carbon fiber handle on this knife. Really nice. And I'm sure that will come later. But, you know, me being impatient, I just wanted to jump on the first available opportunity to buy it, and I could. And I really do like this Qwaiken a little bit better because what my favorite thing about this is the blade style, because it has the drop point as opposed to the Tanto. Not to say there's anything wrong with the Tanto. You know, if you like Tantos, this is actually a very stylish one. But I prefer the drop point, and especially on a Qwaiken style knife, I think it looks really elegant. You know, so that was very nice to see them release that in this blade style. I don't know if they're going to do a Tanto with this size Qwaiken XL, but the blade itself is sterile besides the Q. This is S35 VN steel, and I was pretty impressed with the edge straight out of the box. Although I will mention, if you're looking at this video, you might notice some issues with it. My particular knife out of the box right here, it actually had edge damage on the tip. So the tip was actually blunted. Looked like it had been dropped or something. So it was actually completely like smushed in, which was super disappointing seeing that out of the box, you know. And it was kind of, if anyone has had a knife that they've nicked the edge on, nicked the tip on, I'm sure you've seen it before, where the tip kind of bends overward, and you might not notice it just on first glance, but as you cut through things, material starts to catch on that tip because it's off at an angle, and that's when I first noticed it. So first thing out of the box, it wasn't something evident until I started to cut through fabric and paper, and especially when cutting through fabric, you'll notice the tip would catch on everything you're cutting, and you know, the little fibers would string off at the end. And so that was super disheartening to see, especially when you pay a lot of money for a knife. You want it to be just perfect out of the box. You know, when the card says it's perfect production quality, you really want it to be perfect out of the box. And this is probably just mine. I mean, it's probably just when it was being assembled, it got dropped on the ground. You know, someone forgot to resharpen it maybe. So besides the tip, which I had to kind of attempt to resharpen myself because the tip was blunted, kind of nicked in there, and then the edge at the very tip had a little nick in it. I tried to resharpen it myself, which I'm not doing as good as a job because the rest of the blade is razor sharp. Super happy with that. It's just right when you get here to the very tip of the knife. I mean, you can even see where the stone washing kind of wore away where I was trying to get that damage out. And so that's kind of a little nitpicky thing on my end. Just because when you buy a new knife, you want it to be perfect. Now, if I had done that damage, no big deal, because of course you're going to use your knives eventually, and you're going to get wear and tear like that. But just straight out of the box, I mean, it takes away from the presentation, because now the stonewash on the tip is a bit faded out and damaged. Because the rest of the stonewash on this knife is really gorgeous. I mean, you can just see the grayish look to it. It looks almost like the Texas T, almost as dark as that. But it is just the titanium stain wash, or stonewash. And on this side I was able to minimize any damage to the tip, so the stonewashing there is pretty good. But again, I'm not the greatest knife sharpener, so I was just trying to get that tip fixed, and I mean, it looks better now, not as sharp as the rest of the blade. And that's probably just my example, so that's my experience. Don't let that detract you from buying the knife, because it is a pretty good knife. In every way I was pretty satisfied with it, besides the tip being damaged on arrival. And one other thing, and it's a big heavy knife, big blade. The detent on this one is not as good as you want it to be, because this pocket clip, it doesn't look like it's reversible. It might be, but I'm not sure if it can go in that hole or not. But you're going to want to make sure to reverse it if you're left-hander, because the detent on this, if you try and carry it left-handed, there's a good chance the blade might come out. I mean, it's pretty weak detent, so I mean, it just comes right out. So if you're carrying it right-handed, it's not going to be an issue, because this will be wedged up against your pocket ideally. But if you're just carrying this loose in your pocket or loose anywhere, just the weakness of the detent, I saw that was an issue, and that is probably because it's a heavier blade, and it's again not terrible, but it's something noticeable. And when you get a new knife, you like to inspect it, you like to check everything out. So don't let that detract you again, because again, it's probably as designed. But that being said, the flipping action is amazing. If you saw my earlier video on the smaller Qwaiken, out of the box, the action wasn't as great on this one, although this one has become a really good flipper just wearing it in. So I have no more complaints about this knife here. You'll notice the pocket clips on both of them are pretty much identical. Same style. Although I've noticed that on the bigger one, it's actually much easier to get into and out of pocket. Maybe it has a little more clearance, although it doesn't really look like it. I think the amount of clearance is just right here in between the initial clip and handle area. This makes it easier to get into pants and out of pants. This one does tend to want to stay in your pocket no matter what. Whereas this one, I've noticed it goes in and out really smoothly, and it holds the knife in steady, so no complaints on this end. On the knife here, you can see the numbering. It's like lasered in there, I think, so it's kind of hard to see without a light in there. But it does say made in Texas, and this is 23 out of 300. So same way it was written on this knife here, and it's kind of hard to see just because of the finish of the blade. Like that stone washing is kind of hidden the lettering a little bit, but if you look close, you'll see it. But again, I don't mind having writing letters on knives, and some people do, so I can see why they kind of hid this in here, why they only put the Q on the blade. I would like to see it marked as S35VN, because I always forget which of my Quartermaster knives are CPM 154 and which ones are S35, because they use both of those steels kind of interchangeably, it seems. So again, Quartermaster Qwaiken QSE-13 XL. And so I'm expecting some more of these to get released eventually soon. I would check your local knife vendors, and I totally expect them. I believe on Instagram they did mention they're going to come out with the carbon fiber handles pretty soon. But let's see the weight before we're done on this knife right here. On the website, it's listed at 4.55, so I don't know whether they were weighing the titanium handle or the carbon fiber handle. So let's just check this out. So we got 4.68 ounces. So still under 5 ounces for a 4.2 inch blade, 9.5 inch overall length. And you can thank them for skeletonizing the insides. If you look in the handle there, you're going to see there are cutouts. So under these titanium scales, this is like a skeletonized knife. It is very much, designed to be lightweight. And for the size of the knife, that's really impressive. Less than 5 ounces for such a big blade, such a big knife. So overall, very impressive knife. Again, issues with the detent. If you're a lefty, you might want to double check and make sure that this is a reversible clip. Not sure if it is or not. But again, if you buy one, chances are yours is just going to be fine. I had a little tip issue, and I could have sent that back to Quartermaster to have them fix it. But when you get a knife straight out of the box, I don't really want to send it back immediately. That's not my idea of a good time in the knife world. So again, if you have any questions about this knife, feel free to ask. I'd love to try and answer them for you. But here are the 2 Quartermaster Qwaikens. I'm glad I've bought both of them. If anything, I might sell both of these and get the XL in carbon fiber, because that's the one I really do want the most. But we'll wait and see. I might be happy with this one here. Would be really cool to anodize these handles. But you guys all have a great day. All right, thanks.